What up? What up? What up?
Deuces.
How y'all feeling? Welcome to Sunday night service, everybody.
What's happening, y'all? How y'all doing?
It's religiously incorrect, and it's a good day, man.
It
is. Pastor Jeff.
It is another episode of Religiously Incorrect.
It's another day's journey. Go ahead.
Brought to you by Phillips Care Training, the proud owners of High Street Fitness in Cortland. They are ready to get you right. They are ready to get you tight. You know, y'all might want to get a into summer built. You know what I'm saying? Don't go into winter already fat. That's
you got to bring it down before you get fat again.
Bring it down a little bit.
You should at least be like at ideal weight, like by Columbus Day, and then you're like back up. Halloween, Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? You like get down.
I tell you what, if y'all go the day after Labor Day.
Right.
You want to eat on Labor Day, right?
Absolutely.
So you go the day after Labor Day and get, he might even give you a special.
Yeah, and then just run around with a garbage bag on or something in the heat. What's happening, my friend? Good to see you, Marcus. God bless you. My friend, my minister, Lady Charlene. It's so good to see you. Hey, say hello. Don't lurk. Don't lurk. I know you lurking. Listen, hey, you know what? I think a lot of pastors watch us and don't want to admit it.
Oh man, there'd be so many of them. I think they'd be like, "Yeah, I checked out your little show.
Your little show.
You
got your little show.
Going
on there serving the devil on your little show on the devil's internets." Hey, y'all say hi, like, share, comment. All I gotta say, Jeff, is if I see one more preacher apologizing for something,
oh my God.
But what I really want to say is, I ain't worth your Gucci.
I ain't worth your McDonald's money.
I ain't worth your Red Lobster money. This is like the year of the apology.
I mean, it's so many how much more can you apologize?
I'm gonna be apologizing for something pretty soon. Matter of fact, I'm gonna probably be apologizing for this show pretty soon. We keep this up. It's like the year of the apology.
Every week
there's a new apology. So this one was the pastor who, it's funny because we're getting ready to go into anniversary season. For those that don't know, the church has its own season.
Yeah.
Summertime is convention and conference season.
Mm-hmm.
Fall is anniversary season. What's up, Pastor Glenn Rashad? Hey, Sister Rosalind. It's anniversary season. And this guy is already prepping and priming the people. There was a pastor with us from Kansas City or something like that.
I don't know where he's from. I don't know where he's from.
And he is ranting and raving about what they ought to do for him and what they're not doing for him.
The reason they ain't blessed is because they ain't doing.
The reason you ain't blessed is because you're not blessing the man of God.
The man of God.
Because when you're blessing the man of God, it has to be manned or he's really not blessed.
He's not at all.
It's Hebrew. It's in the original Hebrew. There's a D on it. So he gets caught, and of course somebody puts it on TikTok. And maybe there was something else to this, but I have a hard time trying to draw a line from any other relevant or legitimate message to it.
Because in most cases you could say, well, y'all ain't see what happened before and y'all ain't see what happened after. In that case, I don't need to.
I don't need to.
I don't need to see
I don't need to.
I don't care what was said before, what was said after. He was
off. And Pastor Jeff, anybody that's been to church in your life, anybody that's been to white church, black church, doesn't matter church, you've heard some whack and weird things around giving, period.
Oh, absolutely.
And to me, I was thinking, if he was talking about giving in general, God ain't worth your McDonald's money.
Right.
God ain't worth your Prada money, your Gucci money. I could see that. But when he's talking about himself, I ain't worth I mean, I can just imagine people like, Negro, no. I mean, apparently, that's the funny thing. If you have to say that, then you already know the answer.
Absolutely.
But that's another sign that he's obviously talking to a people who he knew would take that.
I had to be. But let me ask, what is I'm not real hip on jewelry. I never like wearing jewelry. I hate even wearing my wedding ring, but I got to do it because, the girls be
They be, yeah,
But,
right.
But
He has to beat him off with a stick.
But no, but what is a Movado watch?
Jeff has to walk around with a whole stick to beat the people up.
What is a Movado watch?
I guess it's just a brand.
It's just a brand.
It's just a brand, you know. Mike knows he's into.
I used to have one.
He used to have.
See, there we go.
And he used to have a church too.
I mean, you can buy a cheap one for $100, or you know they got special ones with diamonds and you know a lot of gold. So you
for $100,
or
they want to get it. Maybe I'm mad with the brother.
Yeah,
but they got them at Sam's Club. But they got them at Sam's Club.
He did mention Sam's Club. He did mention they have them at Sam's Club, which I mean, I feel like that's all the worse because now you're really a flea market preacher now, if that's what you're saying. But yeah, so a Movado watch, you know, I guess it's a decent, probably not high. Is it a high end? Well, Rosalind knows she's rolling in the dough.
It can be. It can be.
Sister Rosalind's rolling in the dough, so she knows. We don't know this stuff.
I have no idea.
We don't know this stuff.
I have no idea.
Elder Carter, we're still wearing that Casio watch with the calculator on it.
Yeah, we might get one of the the iWatches.
But the Fitbit. You
know,
know, we might get one of those. So this is another apology, and here's what we said a while back. Good to see you, Elder Dooley. Hope you had a great week with your youth weekend and young adult weekend. Hey, this is what we said a while back. This is why a whole lot of folk need to come off of Facebook.
That's what we get to.
If you are a loose cannon, if you're the type that's always saying wild stuff, and again, you are talking to these people who apparently are used to this abuse and this dumb talk, take yourself off Facebook. Use Zoom.
Yeah. Well, the one guy said it, and he said he said, if you are not, and I don't all the way agree with him, but he said, if you are not, if your pastor is not worldwide famous, if your churches don't have, you know, real big superstars and stuff, he says, because you're making everybody else look bad. And I don't know if you're actually making everybody.
I don't think you are.
I'm not saying that you should, but there are some people who just shouldn't be on.
There's a place for it, just like there's a place for every size church. I do believe there's a place within reason. If it's just bad quality and just terribleness, and we've all been there. We're like, we wish we could turn the camera off in our own churches. We're just like, hey, you know. But I think it's more about the content and the behavior of the pastor. Like I can live with just about any type of presentation of worship church, but when your behavior and the things you say are outrageous.
But how much do you think, Pastor Todd? How much do you think, honestly, how much do you think some of it is just staged? Some of it is
a lot of it is staged
for publicity. Because I mean,
Brooklyn dude is riding this. Brooklyn dude is riding this. He didn't challenge D.O. Hughley to a boxing match.
$1 million. He put up $1 million, he said.
So I'm starting to think. And by the way, Elder Dooley, I'll give our subject early. Our subject is called Church Jocks, and you want to stay for this. It's called Church Jocks. You want to stay for this. But I believe that just like we're seeing relationship videos that are staged, we're seeing people argue.
Every marriage got a new dance coming down.
Yeah, new dances. Oh my
God.
People doing this. Oh, you're not going to pay for my meal, or you're not going to take care of my kids, or, you know, whatever it is, you know, the McDonald's joke, buying 4 kids McDonald's. It is, I assume at this point, that 90% of what we're watching in these so-called viral videos are either staged or they purposely put it out themselves. Just like, you know what this is basically? This is the new version of those celebrities that claim that sex tapes were being leaked. Yeah, when really they were putting them out themselves to get buzz. And they are willing to undergo that embarrassment and the hatred. And here's what we know now, that even on this show, we've already been told that part of our algorithm issue, if we don't have as many people watching, is because we don't have as much chaos and arguing and negativity. So if you all argue to cuss us out, and if y'all put a bunch of angry faces and argued and called us names and stuff and da-da-da-da, because you know what else is doing this? We'll get off of this. You know who else is doing this? And I call it trolling. Cooking videos. People are purposely doing disgusting cooking videos just so that people will comment on them. People are stupid stuff. Yeah, thank you. Give me some angry faces. Tell us you hate us. Go ahead and say what you've been wanting to say. Matter of fact, call our Second Baptist members and tell them they go on ahead and create fake accounts to say what they want to say.
You know what ain't staged? What? You know what ain't staged? The kid challenge. Because Mike's kid is still sitting out there. Ain't nobody broken Mike's kid yet.
Nobody broke.
Come up here. It's sitting out there right
breaking
now.
Mike's kid. The Breaking Mike's Kid challenge.
See, I did the research. It's only the key is with the key.
Oh,
If you got the push button, you all right.
Oh,
Really?
so Mike,
All right. Well,
Mike
Kia
got the ball
boys.
early.
Yeah, Kia boys, stay out of Warren. We ain't got no cars you want to drive anyway around here. Well, we really thank you guys for tuning in. Hey, you guys want to stay. This is going to be a fun episode. We got some ranting and raving to do.
Yes, we do.
We got some complaining and criticizing to do because you know what? We're tired of being nice. It's hot. It's the dog days of summer. This is going to be just one of the mean episodes. We're just going to talk about folk.
Just dog folk out.
Dog folk out.
Y'all.
Listen.
What you going to do?
You come down here, steal Mike's Kia.
You can't beat me. And if you try to beat Todd, I'm going to beat you.
Right, because I can't fight. But y'all, listen, thanks for tuning in. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for Meme of the Week.
Meme of the Week.
Cause Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
Welcome to Religiously Incorrect, ladies and gentlemen.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
Thank you. Send us your memes of the week.
Meme of the Week. Meme of the Week.
We are, these are all jokes. We are just playing.
What do we got? When they say they can't trust the Bible because it's written by man, but they trust newspapers, science journals, horoscopes, and fortune cookies. If that ain't the truth, if that, listen, I'm so tired of just that. Just leave it at that. I'm tired of that argument.
It's written by man. The white man wrote it.
Yeah, white to it. Now it's really toxic.
Yes,
the white man wrote it.
Yes,
Meanwhile, you are literally claiming that your personality is based off what somebody put in a magazine under your astrological
Not even a magazine.
sign.
They believe everything on Facebook.
Twitter.
Everything.
Your morning Twitter horoscope. now, how in the world? Now, this is what I'm trying to figure out. You people ask me, how do different Christians and pastors preach different things out the same Bible? How you open up 7 different magazines and have 9 different horoscopes?
Exactly. Because it's Virgo season.
Because I'm a Gemini.
It's Virgo season. Y'all better get ready.
I love that. When people say it's written by man, it's written by what isn't? Let's just be honest. If holy men inspired by God wrote it, at least holy men inspired by God.
They literally wanted God to come, leave heaven, come down here, write a book.
You wouldn't believe it if he did.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe that.
You wouldn't believe it if he did.
You wouldn't believe he done it.
I have always said about my Hotep brothers, our woke brothers, the Hoteps out there, that we were kings. You know what's crazy? They're gonna say one day, 300 years from now, if Christianity really does go all white or whatever, there's going to be a picture of a black man in a robe. They're going to be talking about, we was Christians.
Mm-hmm.
We was the original Christian. We was the preachers. We had all these churches. No, but here's
they're going to prophecy right there. Write it down. Write it down.
So here's my crazy thing. And I know we added white to the meme, but that's what we deal with. Right. We're black preachers. We deal with the white. We added white to the man-made, white, written by the white man. Here's the funny thing. I got people that will not believe in the so-called white man's religion, but they sure will drink his liquor.
Well,
smoke his weed.
Well,
go to his clubs. Try to invest. And I just read an article, man. Speaking of man-made, I just read an article that said that black people are more likely and susceptible to believe in crypto and want to invest in it than white people. Because they feel like that's a come up, and it might be for somebody.
Let me tell you. Yesterday, my wife and I went downtown.
Okay.
I'm not gonna say no names. I'll say it. But a lady came up to us, a known Republican lady came up to us and said, "Well, what is y'all church doing?" Because I'm so sick and tired of the thought of the what was it? The thought twerking or something, the new Beyonce song, whatever it is.
Right.
Christian. I said, listen, please don't tell me anything about Beyonce or anybody else when you voted for Trump. I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. I don't want to hear nothing about thoughts when you voted for a man who grabbed him by the PUSSY.
And he said it. I told you he has to beat him off with a stick. Because Jeff doesn't do that. He pushes the women away. He doesn't grab the women like. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're living in some of the most craziest times it's like the smarter we get, the dumber we get.
Absolutely.
Doesn't I feel like that?
But I'm saying you're a black woman. Okay.
You're a black woman voting against your own interests. He don't love you
at all.
None of them do, to be honest. All right. We want to thank our sponsors real quick because I want to hit this subject. Y'all going to love this. We got some talking. Phillips Care Cleaning Service, residential cleaning, floor cleaning. They will clean your house, your commercial space, your church. Hey, brothers, call my man. They'll take care of everything, indoor, outdoor. They do so much more than cleaning. They do maintenance. They do, fixer-upper projects. I mean, they can make it happen. Call 330-219-7916. They'll wash your dishes, clean your drawers, all that stuff. Service in Trumbull, Mahoney, and surrounding areas. And while you're at it, fall season is coming. Leaves are already falling. Check out Phillips Care Lawn Services. They not only cut grass, they trim hedges, they clean up leaves, they'll clip branches. They take care of all that stuff.
I love Fernando. Listen, I love Fernando. Last night about 11 o'clock. It was 11 o'clock at night.
Right.
I've been teaching, outside with my son playing basketball every day.
Right.
So, Mike used to Fernando used to take all his kids down to the Y.
Right.
I said, Fernando, I'm just texting him like, he gonna text me tomorrow. Fernando, I want my son to start coming with you. Dude, me and this cat text about 11:45. I fell asleep texting.
Listen,
he was still.
He will get back with you.
He will get back with you. You want something done? Fernando will get back with you.
Yeah, he's our man. So check out Phillips Care. We thank the Phillips Care family of businesses. Look them up, Phillips Care LLC on Facebook or just Facebook. That's it. That's all. Okay, Jeff. Here's our subject for the night. I love this phrase, and I love it because I came up with it. Mm-hmm. Church jocks.
Church jocks.
I did a whole Twitter thread about this, and you can go read that boring stuff if you want to, or you can listen to us rant and crack on people. But I'm calling this church jocks. You're correct, Terrence. Y'all keep hitting the mad faces so we can get some more people. I want y'all to be angry.
Pastor Thomas, bless you, man. How you doing?
Bishop.
The bishop. The bishop is
His grace.
We done made it. We made it.
We made it.
Bishop.
We made it.
Yes, sir.
His grace.
Yes,
Everyone
sir.
stand while we play Holy, Holy, Holy. All three stanzas. All right. What is a church jock? Well, I'm going to define it the way I want to define it.
Talk about it.
It is very much like the high school and college stereotype.
Can we talk about just do the high school thing first? What is just
a jock period?
Yeah, what is a jock period?
It's,
because I was one, so.
Well, according to the definition, it's usually any person who's athletic or who's an athlete. And that's what Jeff really wanted us to say, is that he was an athlete.
Yes.
I'd have to check back and find out if you were actually a jock or not.
Wikipedia me.
Wikipedia
me, baby. I still got records in Youngstown.
I got the blue check mark.
I still got records in some of our Youngstown folk go on here and sign me in there.
Yes.
I still.
And look up that Youngstown Municipal Court too while you at it.
Woo! Don't do that, y'all.
Look up the Secretary of State's website. Attorney General. Okay, so a jock is an athletic person in high school or college. Mm-hmm. But they're often, Scott said, court records. But they're often, if you take it a step further, it's usually talented, that clique, that crew, the cool kids, because they're good at sports, they have a talent, and that talent, that athleticism, that popularity, the school, everyone's riding on it. They are the man or the woman. They're the one, scoring the touchdowns, leading the basketball team. They're the ones bringing people in the stands. And that's what we see in high school. And we all know we are in Northeast Ohio, and come on now, Warren, Ohio, the king of, where football is God.
Absolutely.
King. And we all know a story about somebody who was the jock, the star of the school. And once they became the jock, the star, we even have some tragic stories, of that. Nothing matters but the talent, the success, the play on the field. How many people have you known? Don't say no names. Don't type no names. Push through school, didn't have to go to class, breaking rules, sometimes breaking the law.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Breaking the law. I mean, just crazy stuff. They might get special things bought for them, cars. If you go, deep, especially in the college, this before what they call it, NIL or whatever they call it now, cars being bought, all this. And there's just this favoritism. And it can extend from not just the coaches and the boosters, but parents, principals.
Oh my God.
School boards.
All over.
And here's the issue. That's just not in schools. The church has jocks too.
Wow.
This is my and I had a phrase.
This is your thesis.
A thesis.
Mm-hmm.
And the one of the summaries of the thesis is not using the word jock, but it was cool is killing the church.
Cool is killing the church.
But that's on another level. But the idea of, we've always had this, but I think it's becoming even more and more prevalent in mindset that if you have a special gift, if you have a special talent, and I'm not picking, but I'm going to pick a bit, especially if you're younger.
Yes.
Or you're just that ultra talented person. You could be, of course, the preacher. If you're the preacher, of course, we always pick on the preacher, but now it's extending into worship leaders.
Oh, it's definitely the
musicians.
Worship leaders is the worst.
Yeah. We stepping. We stepping.
The worship leaders is the worst.
And because it's become more and more. And let's be honest, because church has become more of a specialized endeavor where only the talented. We call it anointed, but the truth of the matter is it's whoever's the most skilled,
yes,
whoever's the most professional, whoever has the best presentation, and they are practically marketing themselves almost in the same way that now we see high school. Well, where's the big school I can get recruited at the best? College now, where can I get paid or get the most exposure or get on? We're doing the same thing in church. And
where can I get on? Where can I get on?
And it's church jocks. And here's my thesis. It is damaging to the body of Christ even more so because it's on a larger platform and a broader platform where we are very clearly seeing people who are excused from all of the basics of church fellowship, membership. You might as well just forget about that. Actually being a member and committed and tithing and Bible study. Then when you mess up or you're not even being a suitable person. I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, another word I call it is a step away from church job. They become church bums, where you literally have nothing of value. No, you are not one, Terry. You have, and I'm gonna be honest. Can I get real? Just like that, and I hate to say because I'm not putting someone down in their intrinsic worth and value, but I'm saying the way they're being used and the way they present themselves. Just like that football player is nothing but a touchdown scorer. Some people are leaning into being nothing but a singer in their entire lives, nothing but somebody's organist, nothing but the one who can throw down at the musical or put on the best concert or create the best presentation or production. And literally, if I looked at your life and asked you if you could do if 2 + 2 is 4, or if you have a career track, or if you have anything going for you, and I'm not saying you shouldn't be honed in on what your dreams are, but there's definitely an imbalance there.
The problem, Pastor Todd, is that, to be honest, most of these people allow their anointing to take them to a place their character can't keep them.
Did they even have any character?
Well, no, they don't, and they don't have to because their anointing allows them to get to walk in rooms that everybody else can't access.
Can we stop calling it anointing?
Not even their anointing, their talent.
Okay,
I'll call it because I don't think you can have. I don't know if God would. I can't say that because. Well, put it like this, like you said, talent. There's so many different ways you can go with this. But here's the thing. I can recall when I first got into church, when I first got into preaching, young preacher, going around, whether it be Youngstown, Warren and stuff. And literally the pastor knew half the mistakes I was making.
Making. Not made.
Half the mistakes. But it was only until it affected the church.
There it is.
That they wanted to sit me down.
Embarrass you.
It was only until it came, you know what I mean? You knew this the whole time.
Right.
But you didn't want to call me out because of the gift that I was used for in the church.
Right.
So you didn't want to say nothing. So here's the thing. As long as you wasn't calling it out, I wasn't caring.
There it is.
There it is. Be honest.
And you're absolutely right. And to me, that is the ego and the attitude of the church jock that's developed in a person is that if nobody's going to check me, I'm sure not going to check me.
Right.
And listen, that's it. You if you can play, if you can sing, if you have talent, and again, the church depends on you. So there's the ego, there's the attitude of it. But what you just said is key to it. Then there's the enablers.
Yes.
And I preached on this today. I talked a little bit about it today at our Back to School Sunday. I talked about it in Back to School Sunday that we have parents that are living vicariously through their children.
Mm-hmm.
There are pastors who will put up with anything and any behavior because it keeps the folks coming in. And thank you, Elder Dooley. The churches that don't care are full.
Yes. Yes.
But we'll get up and sing holiness.
Mhm.
We'll get up and talk about the world, and I'm gonna talk about something else in a minute. But then there are enablers because you're making me look good. You're keeping the offerings coming in, and you know what? You know what's crazy is that now I'm seeing more posts and more videos and more TikToks and more tweets with worship leaders, organists, singers, and I'm not saying they're all dirty people. What I'm saying is the attitude is what they're saying is, we are the ones who are bringing in the money. So you better leave us alone, fund and finance everything we want, pay us more. I mean, I literally saw a post a while back, literally like, why are you paying all these preachers? You need to up your budget for us and lessen your budget for the preaching because we're the ones that make your conferences go and your concerts go and this and that and the other. And people are buying into it. I'm not saying that you totally throw out the value and the worth of what people bring to the table because they do. But when you have a domineering attitude about it and you know you can and nobody will say, no, I don't have to have that. And you're right. The people who say I don't have to have that are often people that have very small whack ministries, can't do a whole lot for what they're doing, but they are enabled.
Now here's the other point, Pastor Todd. What about these individuals? Because some of these individuals, can you even call them church jocks because they don't belong anywhere?
Well, they're using the church to do their jockeying.
Right, to do their jockeying. That's it. And they don't belong. They go from church to church, wherever the money leads, wherever they follow the yellow brick road.
Right.
And so, so somebody has to say, nah, son, I'm not going, you can't just sit here and be used. You can't just sit here and do what you want to do. And, half these guys, they don't sit in they don't. Let's just be honest. They do not sit in while we're preaching.
Let's talk about it.
They don't sit in
Let's talk about it.
They go downstairs and eat your food out your refrigerator.
Man, they go downstairs and smoke. They go in the car and light up.
And you don't see them again until you start revving up and getting ready to hoop and holler.
If you see them again.
Right.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing is that this does build resentment because just like in that school setting, the people who don't sing, play, preach, or have some special gifting, they're being told, if you don't do this and you don't do that, you're not a faithful Christian. You're not a faithful believer. You're not a faithful church member. And they're enabled. And they're almost, the average person is pushed to the side, invisible. And one of our presenters at the Lot Carey convention I was at this week was talking about how because we have narrowed down what is important in church to whatever happens on the stage. And preachers are the number one people that obviously get fawned over, but there's a whole professional industry being developed off the backs of the church. It is not just monetary. I'm not saying what you're worth, not worth, but I'm also saying from a mindset and a moral. It's not about the money so much, it's the morals. Like if you really believe in what you're singing and preaching and teaching and presenting, then you also should live it out, not just before the people, but with the people. And the fact that you don't, now you have this two-tiered system where they get all the attention and demand all the attention.
Right.
And listen, I am coming out of that old school mentality. I mean, I know what it takes, equipment, technology, and all this, but some of the demands. And here's something I discovered. There are people who are worth what they bring to the table, musician wise, what they bring to the table, preaching wise. And I'm going to pick a little bit on musicians, singers, worship leaders, all that. Honestly, if you be honest with yourself, some churches need to just realize that what they're paying and what they're bending over backwards and what they are spoiling people over is not actually helping their ministries.
Come on.
There are, and to be honest, because let's be honest, if you can't preach, you can't preach. And you can sing the folk happy for an hour if you want to. But if you can't preach, you can't preach. And I believe that a true preacher or teacher, if Creflo Dollar or an Ivy Hilliard or our own, Timothy Clark, Bishop Paramore, a good teacher, good preacher, they could just do a live and a Cash App and live.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
They could just do a live and a Cash App and live. And some people, there are places where the balance and the production and what goes in does matter because it enhances the talent that's already there. And I've had some people,
Yes,
Elder Dooley,
that's good.
who has been giving some high criticisms of the church, and they're coming from the musical side. Your music ain't as good. Your production ain't as good. Your singers don't sound as good. And I want to say back to them, your preacher sucks. And I can tell because, and can we be religiously incorrect? Because ain't none of your seats filled up. Off of the best singing, the best playing, the best presentation and production, because nobody wants to hear what the dude with the mic has to say when you get done with your show. End of story. End of story. Wow. And you still struggling, but you want to play that, critique stuff. And to me, that's jock behavior. You know what I'm saying? That's jock behavior. Oh, no, it's allowable. Listen, we need to start, and it's going to happen sooner or later because we've all put ourselves out there on a platform. And let's just be honest. Ain't nobody coming for you. Nobody coming to see you, Otis. Anybody coming to see you, Otis? Listen, there's a bunch of Bishop Otises out there, and you're proud of yourself. And honestly, I just feel like that lets me know how shallow people are, because they'll take money from a ministry going nowhere and reaching no one. If I was still a musician, outside of my father, who I'm going to serve to the day I die, I want to be hooked up to a preacher who people actually want to hear preach.
Absolutely. I
want to be hooked up with a preacher who actually gets invited somewhere once in a while. I would, and thank you, Terry. We don't tell people, how many times, how much lying happens in the pulpit after somebody that got done ranting about nothing.
Good preaching,
Doc. Didn't our hearts burn? Nah, that was
just whack.
Nah, that was heartburn. That's what it was. Your heart wasn't burning. That was tacos you had last night. But you're right. But I'm saying that shows the imbalance and the lack of balance in what should really matter: the word, the ministry, reaching people. Come on, we've been in schools. We've seen high schools and colleges. All of these giant stadiums and no books in schools, kids not graduating, people not succeeding. You're throwing these kids off, especially the ones that are on the field. And the same things are having that problem in the church. We're throwing all this money at lights and smoke, and the people don't know their Bible.
Don't know it at all.
At all. So here's the other thing. We've seen it before. And Jeff, you've seen it before. Because the problem with the church jock is being the church jock never lasts. You only get a few good years.
Yeah. Well, you get a few good years and then you move on and try to become somebody else's church jock.
And then if you get tired of that, you try to become a pastor.
Oh.
So let's talk about it, Jeff. Let's be real. How many guys do you know? And we'll talk musicians. We'll talk. How many guys do you know that should or could have made it, but they're barely scrapping for some kind of honorarium in somebody's church, being somebody's organist? I mean, and I'm looking at cast that's 50 and 60 years old that will never really get anywhere. And a part of it is because nobody held them to a standard and they thought this was all there was, and they flamed out. Who doesn't have their little album?
She's just selling out the back of your car.
Who hasn't backed up a star? I mean, I have. Who hasn't backed up a star at least once? Who hasn't had that come on, Elder Dooley, who hasn't had that 5-7 year, if it lasts that long? It's almost like being a pro sports star, or that 4-year college student. How many of those guys actually end up making it to the next level? Seriously.
To the next level, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So my question is, how do we rectify that reality?
We be truthful. And that's the problem. Nobody wants to be truthful. Elder Dooley just said, nobody wants to tell the preacher he stinks. Nobody wants to tell the musician, listen, you got to sit down for a while. Nobody wants to tell
you need a real job. How about that? You need a real job.
Yes.
Get a real job.
Yes. Can we start with that? Get a job. Stop.
This should be a supplement. The church should be a supplement. There are only so many mega churches, mega ministries that can pay you a full-time salary. And honestly, you ain't good enough to play at them or sing at them.
Y'all don't even know why we laughing, but we know why we laughing. I'm sorry, y'all.
You know what though? But Elder Dooley did make a good point.
What's Elder Dooley's?
He did say that good music does draw.
To a point. So you're right. Good music does draw. There's no doubt about it. But I guess maybe because I'm a numbers guy. Okay, I'm cracking up. When our minister of music passed, yes, mother said Marky had a job and took care of his family. We know music is a big draw in the church.
It is. It is.
It's absolutely. But I also think there is a ecosystem you build around that. Just like we build an ecosystem around sports in a school, that there are some schools that have no sports and they thrive.
Absolutely.
It's only because you decided that was an important thing. You know what I mean? You made it, and then you created a dependency. A lot of us
that's what I think.
Created the dependency
Right.
on music.
And you build the whole ministry around that music ministry. And I think it's the church should still be word led. It should still be word led. When you have to sing praise and worship for 3 hours and you preach for 15 minutes, I think it's off balance. There's you're off kilter somewhere. Your sins have been waiting to balance.
Yeah,
You've been found wanting.
You've been found wanting.
You've been found wanting.
You turn your face to the wall.
I mean, and don't get me wrong. I've been there. I've been to those churches. It's beautiful.
Right.
I mean, but it's tiring too, man.
But I've also been to churches, and I pastored. Our church. We're average. We're average. The church I came from, we were average at best. And when I'm saying average, I mean no superstars per se. We do well. Quality is clean, but to be honest, I've seen more churches with average music and good speaking, good preaching that continue to thrive.
Right.
And I've watched over my lifetime, and I'm only 40, churches that, literally sang and could sing the house down, but it did not produce long-lasting ministry. And to be honest, sooner or later, the wheels fall off of that fad and that season where you're bumping and jumping, you're the most impressive. And when you're not the most impressive anymore, and when there's no meat behind it, but my issue is, here's the issue. I'm not complaining so much about the people, but I'm concerned about the souls and the mentality that we feed. Just like those of us who are the enablers, the pastors, people's parents, just like people live vicariously through that kid. Like I said today, your child is probably not LeBron James. He's probably not going to make it to the next level. So you should make their books more important than their sports.
Right.
But there's somebody else in their ear saying, nah, everybody's looking at you. You got what it takes. So bunk that. Focus on lifting. Focus on strengthening. Focus on your highlight reel. Focus on this. And because you saw one person make it, listen, let's be honest. There's only going to be so many TD Jakes, so many Ty Tribbetts, and it's a minute percentage.
Right.
And I'm not saying I don't want you to make it. And see, that's the thing. We talk with coaches, and we talk with people. It's not that we don't want you to make it. It's just that we're old enough to know reality.
Reality, yes.
We're old enough to know reality. And so what the church shouldn't do is, for its Sunday services purposes, feed a fantasy into individuals when we are sitting next to a graveyard of people who lived in that same fantasy world, and now they're still living with their mama at 50 and 60 years old. They're still hoping that they can get a gig here and get a gig there and have to, and I'm not saying that I want you to pursue your passion, but here's the other part that goes into this. Then there's an entitlement that everything is everyone else's fault instead of you failing to see reality. Y'all don't support like you do. You don't appreciate gifts like you know. We appreciate it as much as it's worth appreciating, but not as much as you want to feed your income.
And just look at the reality. If you getting the same 25 and 30 people following you that I'm getting at my little church, and we all both got the same 25 and 30 people. It doesn't, you're not TD Jakes.
Right.
You are a church in Warren, Ohio that people.
Why you gotta talk about Warren, man?
I'm just saying.
Say Youngstown.
People in Warren and Youngstown are watching. I mean,
Hey, Columbus.
just be realistic about it. You're not, it's not that, you can add as much smoke and TVs, you got a 75-inch TV in a room the size of this set.
Listen.
It doesn't make sense.
And it's funny because we joke, oh shoot, dog, you telling all the T Dooley? You telling all the T Dooley? And the entitlement, and again, it feeds an imbalance. Like you said, we are where we are.
Right.
And here's what we do. We misappropriate needed energies and resources and even persons to feed a show that only so many people are interested in. Mm-hmm. Now, if Netflix and HBO Max will determine that the ROI on a popular show is not worth spending $4 million an episode or whatever, then churches need to start wising up and saying, maybe we don't need a $1,500 budget for our music ministry. Maybe we don't need a $2,000 budget. If the same people that actually tithe would have come with grandma playing the piano,
right,
and the community choir or the congregation choir. I'm not saying everybody's like that. There are some churches where your funds might be really dependent on the production and the presentation that you put on, but there's a whole lot of people, and I think that's where, when you talk about church jocks, school jocks, that's where we mix the secular and a sacred in the way that shouldn't be, because they're two different worlds. Yes, church. You ever heard people say church is a business?
Mm-hmm.
People say church is a business. You got to market this. You got to present this. You got to do things with excellence. I agree with that. But the fact of the matter is, church is more than a business. It's an organic entity, and people aren't just tied to the church simply commercially. They're tied to the church in a emotional manner. That's why people will go. Why do people keep continuing to go to a church? And it's not like, well, it's because that's what they call home and where they want to be. It's the same reason you might live in a house, the gutter's hanging a little bit, and it was all our houses unperfect. There is a perfect house down the street, but I might be tied to this, comfortable with this. And Elder Dude, let's talk about that. Because of this ecosystem we've created around music, tithes, money, should the church be expanding itself so that it's not so dependent on these mechanisms, and by extension, these people?
Well, then if you do that, then you're gonna say, why is y'all church having fundraisers when the church ought to be?
Does it have to be a fundraiser? Why can't it be an investment club or a business? Why can't we invest in community, entrepreneurs, or like our church had a day, we should have a daycare.
Right.
Why can't we think of ways to be more imaginative in not so much fundraising, but income generating?
Income generated. I like that.
And I'll be honest, again, sometimes we're not always reading the culture, because while people come from music, and Elder Dooley is right, a lot of people come from music, the culture is shifting away from the churches with the best performance. And the culture is shifting in many ways, especially the unchurched culture that we really should actually care about.
Absolutely.
They're shifting to who cares the most about what we're going through and who's addressing. And there are people who would rather go to a church where the preacher is talking about their concerns than the world's greatest choir singing at their emotions.
Right.
And I was sitting down having lunch with a pastor from Columbus, Elder Dooley, good brother. And he asked, something about young adults, because here's what I see. Great church music, tell me if I'm wrong, really only attracts church people. Somebody talk back to me on there. Tell me if I'm wrong. We got about 30 people watching, probably more than that. Great church music at the end of the day
only attracts church people.
And half the time, in every area, in every region, it's the same church folk. Most of these people already go to a church and are going to keep going to that church that they were going to. They'll come hear you. They'll come to your event. They're not about to switch churches because you were the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody is running down the aisle saying, what must I do to be saved? Thugs ain't running in the church because we got the best choir in town. Am I making this up? When's the last time you saw thugs running to the altar because the choir was throwing down today? Killing.
I mean, there are some who would rather, especially worldly folks. Now, don't get me wrong. When I came out of Youngstown, I came from a very, subdued church. Nobody really clapped their hands. Obviously, when I came up here, the first church I went to was New Jerusalem. And at that time,
you rolling under pews.
At that time, they was bumping.
Running on the roof.
And I mean, out in Merle would, throw in a little bit of,
Oh, you throw some P-Funk. Oh, yeah. That was mostly Vail. Vail was the architect of that.
Vail was killing. Vail was killing. And I mean, you know what I'm saying?
So he had me doing it too. I didn't even know what it was. Like, what is this? This is Ohio players. Right.
But I mean, it did help. It did help. I will say that.
Right. It does help. It does help. But what I'm saying is, who are the folk? When we say Marlon makes a great point, growing up, if the organist wasn't there, two people that don't show up, people ain't showing up, the organist and the preacher. If they see your car ain't there, or they know you kind of going a cappella, or as the mothers call it, Acapulco, then they're not showing up. But who are the folk? Who are the people now? And if the church is, we all know, shrinking as an overall demographic, then can we go back to that phrase, church is a business? Then what good businessman keeps chasing an old business model when your demographic that was interested in that model is shifting away from you? Right. Why would you keep chasing the model that only attracts folk that are already in the grave?
Right.
And some of us, let's be honest, we can tie this back in because we're dealing with this right here in Warren. Right here in Warren. And I will bring up Warren on this when it comes to our schools. We got folk living in the glory days. And no disrespect, still celebrating folk that won state championships 50 years ago, still expecting kids living in the Warren with 40,000 people to have the same weight and fire and talent as a Warren with 80,000, 70,000 people or whatever. And we're doing the same thing in our churches. We got people who are coming along in a different era, in a different generation, making demands of the church and put me up front because they want to be like what they saw growing up, Marlon. Right. They want to see what they saw growing up. But what they saw growing up is actually over. Nobody cares about that. Matter of fact, I'm even watching among preachers. Don't nobody care who's got the flyest suit anymore. Nobody cares even who hoops the best.
You don't even got to wear a suit no more.
You don't. And I mean, I still hoop and get excited, but honestly, most of the people who are feeling me aren't feeling me because I hoop them happy.
Right. It's what you said before the hoop.
They liked what I said before the hoop. And I got cats that come up to me from the street like, yo, man, I ain't really into the hoop, man. I love what you do, but I ain't into that. But you said what I needed to hear before that. Right. So, I mean, if I'm hooping, first of all, it's for my own happiness. And the only people that really appreciate it are church folk, other preachers. There he go, da-da-da-da-da. But if I'm trying to actually reach people, and how about we stop there? Am I actually trying to reach people?
Like you said, when I watched Timothy Clark on his live, he ain't hooping. When I watched Bishop Paramore driving in a car, killing it,
giving
just
a word.
talking.
Right.
Killing it, giving a word.
And I will hoop. I shall.
And I literally had to change my whole method of my whole way of preaching because the hoop just isn't, to me, it's not as relevant as it was.
And I guess here's my part. I love to see stories of that jock with the 4.0, the jock that's got a free ride to Harvard if he wants to go, the jock, like, who is that? Was it one of the Roll brothers that was the safety and he went back to school? He retired early. It was Samari and the other Roll. They were both in the NFL and they're going back to school and getting there. I think he had like a doctorate degree. I mean, if you're going to do that jock part in the church, make sure you do the Jesus part for the community.
Come on, son.
So I'm a hoop. You come to Second Baptist, I'm a hoop. I want you to hear this, Jeff. You better hear about it. No, I don't think you're hearing me yet. When you come to Second Baptist, I'm a hoop. When you come to Second Baptist, I'm a hoop. Monday night, you're going to catch me at the gym, and I'm a hoop. Thursday night, you're going to catch me with the young boys from the neighborhood, and I'm a hoop.
Yes, sir.
The problem is there are people who are still thinking that putting the best Sunday show on is what's going to reach the world and lift up Jesus.
It does not.
It doesn't. Loving people and taking care of people and feeding people and advocating for people, lifting your voice, getting in a little bit of good trouble, like John. That's actually what the world is hungry for. And so here's the church dumping funds into a diet that nobody wants to eat off of.
Doc, you is killing. We about to pass up offering plate around. You killing tonight, Doc.
I love them, but
sir.
We were dumping funds. I pay musicians. I pay my choir. I want my choir to be good. I look. But if somebody comes to me and say, I can't take less than such and such, I'm gonna have a conversation because I don't need you that bad because the ministry is beyond your demands. Your demands
will exist without you.
And can I hit on this, Jeff, and tie into this because we've both been pastors. And we've both watched individuals, especially in the arts ministries, music ministries, and other skills, speaking ministry. They think we're hating when we are genuinely concerned about the path they're on because we know where it leads.
Right.
And when we say, hey, don't take every gig or don't be all about the money or get paid, get what you're worth, but stay focused. I've talked to young people like, yo, make sure you get that job. Make sure you get stable. Make sure, I often say to people, I thrived. When I was 21 years old, I bought my first house.
Mm-hmm.
I was making like $13. It was a different time. $13 an hour at the bank I was working at. But I was also making a couple $100s a week from my dad's church. I was playing at church. Maybe it was $200 a week at the time I was making, which was good money at the time, $200 a week.
Right.
But honestly, that supplement of income on top of a real job put me over the top into a far more stable position than if I would have just tried to gig around and build a life off of that.
Yeah.
And all it was taken out of me was my Sundays, my rehearsal times, but I'm working my job and I was able to create. And so I'm like looking at young men, young women, young people who want to go to full-time ministry. Come on. They want to go into full-time ministry, whether it's full-time preaching, full-time gigging, full-time. And I'm like, I feel it, but
hold up. Slow your roll.
I know what could bring you prosperity. Matter of fact, my brother Tony, and I speak highly of him when it comes to this. He worked so hard at what he did. He could buy whatever drum set he wanted to buy. He wasn't the best drummer, but because he worked hard, he could buy whatever he wanted. And cats that were 2 and 3 times better than him, but they wanted to live off the church, they had to borrow sticks off him. Brag about how good they are, but not have a snare drum.
Right.
Brag about how they can play him. I'm sure they probably look at him like, man, you got that good set. You can't even play it. He's like, nigga, I got a job. You know what I mean? What?
I remember when I first started my first church. And I had Micah, who now is probably one of the most popular players around. And he started with me.
Jeff made him
at a little church in Youngstown at the Salvation Army.
Jeff taught him, gave him lessons.
But here's the thing. The church wasn't bringing in no money. So when I would leave church, because I worked, I would go to the ATM and get money if we didn't make enough to take care of him. So now, if I call him now, man, it ain't about the money. You know what I'm saying? Because we got real relationship. Right. And most pastors don't have that relationship with their musician to be able to talk to them or say that type, or even have, you're gonna have to pay me.
I agree.
How long you want me to play for?
Oh yeah.
How many sets? How many songs am I playing?
And you remind, make sure you remind Micah, you got to make up a story. Like I laid hands on him when he was 16 and I called him up to the pulpit and I put anointing oil on his hands and I prophesied to him and he just started playing Beethoven.
None of that. I ain't done none of that.
He started playing Flight of the Bumblebee real quick. And I mean, again, it's like everything else. The NFL has its horror stories of people who made millions and wasted it. We have stories about the Lynn Biases of the world. I mean, I was just watching, by the way, I got to bring this up. Hey, if y'all got Netflix, you need to watch The Dark Side of Football because they have an entire episode called Why Cleveland Can't Win.
Come on, man. Why you have to bring that up, man? Why? Come on, man.
And this was produced before the show.
Come on.
But anyway, I'm looking at like the Johnny Manziels. That's why I brought that up. I'm looking at the Johnny Manziels. And so again, just like we have seen people flame out, that is even the more reason.
And talented people. There are talented people right here who can sing you under the roof, but have never move past.
And won't. So like I do with my boy right now, he's pretty good. I don't know if it'll turn into anything, but at his little age, he's pretty good at what he does. I see some other little boys on the field with him that are pretty good at what they do. And I see their attitudes and their demeanor and their entitlement, they're argumentative, they're disrespectful. And I look at my boy and I say, I don't care if you're the best kid or the worst kid, but just don't ever be like that kid.
Right.
Don't ever be like that kid. I don't care if you're the most talented or the least talented. And what we're seeing is, can we just call it what it really is? A broken mentality and undeveloped hearts. Just like, I mean, we saw it with Maurice Claret. We've seen it locally with people, and he'll tell you, you got people putting the pressure and the hopes and the dreams of their lives on his back and expecting him as a young man to make right decisions. And that's why the church, especially with our younger talented people, the ones in their 20s and 30s who are showing exceptional skill, like we should be, and I know they don't want to hear it, and it's hard sometimes to pull that back, but we should be giving the balance. And I don't know if it's a war going on, because I know what it's like to struggle with that. I know what it's like to be the petulant person, but I also had somebody in front of me saying, I'll show you what real success is. It's far more than you can play on it, at least until you get there for real.
But see, and that's one of the things, Pastor Todd, because let's just be honest, your father was there for you. Your father I watched him develop you. I watched him allow you to lead lead with him under you. You know what I mean? Right beside you. A lot of these guys don't have that.
That's true.
A lot of these guys do not have the instruction that you had. So all they know is how good I am.
Correct.
That's all they know is for me, that's all. When that's the only time I got love is when I was playing football.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Outside of the football field, I was garbage. I was trash. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm just being honest, so you start to depend on that. You know what I mean? You start to depend on, man, I got to be the best at what I do. And, that's when I'm going to get love. And so.
Hey, our numbers are going down. We need some more hate, y'all. Put some hate comments in there. No, I'm joking. You're absolutely right. And that brings up a point I think we can finish on, is how many people in various occupations, but especially public occupations where your skill is appreciated, your personality is appreciated. It can be sports, it can be music, it can be, politics, it can be whatever. How many people get to a state where their identity is wrapped up in their talent and their skill, their persona, and we're putting it on them as much as they're putting it on themselves. We are telling me, people say, well, why do preachers have egos? I often say the people gave them one.
Exactly.
The people told them that you're not important unless you're performing for me. Mm-hmm. And if you're not a senior pastor, you ain't nobody. I've been kicked off an organ before. I've been like, the preacher would get up and I was just playing. I was a middling, terrible one or two keys. I want my organ, I want and he wanted the better guy that was gonna, you know what I mean? And so, of course, I hurt my little feelings. But I'm thinking to myself, maybe I wasn't good enough for the moment. I understand that. I wasn't giving him what he needed and what he wanted to feel. But on the other hand, you start to live within that. Okay, let me get better so that doesn't happen to me again. And now I'm not talking about honoring God anymore with my gift. I'm talking about measuring up to people's expectations, because I've been shown that if I'm not good enough, I'm not valued.
Absolutely. Hey, when I left my church, or when I came with you, when I closed my church, came with you, a lot of my members came over there with me to your church, and I still remember. And I remember we had this big debate, because it's like, well, what do we call him, Pastor Todd?
Right.
What do we call him? Do we call him pastor? Do we call him elder? And you made sure the whole church knew, still call me Pastor Jeff.
Pastor Jeff.
And it was beautiful. But I still remember going to, I don't know where I went, and another pastor in the city, it was after I got Beulah again. Okay. It was like, Pastor Jeff, now I can actually call you that again. I was always a pastor, and I remember, listen, I literally had maybe 20 people at my church. And when I came to you, you put me over the men. Well, we had over 20 men.
Right.
So I had more members.
Pastoring more people.
I was pastoring more people with you than, you know what I mean? But people don't see it like that.
And I think one of the things that we should do to that mentality is we should be the ones to teach people that they are valued beyond their gift.
Yes.
But they have a part to play in that as well, where they have to accept the fact that people would value them even if you're not at peak performance.
Right.
Or even if you have your own personal dreams. The principal said something very, very important when she spoke. Mrs. Williams, the principal of Harding, spoke at our church this morning. She said it's not just about trying to succeed, but it's about knowing what to do when you fail. How do you respond? What type of person will you be? And I think that in our churches, we run into a lot of situations where instead of pulling back when things aren't flowing the way we think they ought to, according to what we think the talent, the response, the reaction, the reception, even the resources we should be gaining off what we're doing, are we sliding back and asking God, what would you really have me to do? Or do we just try to push forward and force the world to accept a dream that might not be for us, but we want to force? And that's what I'm saying. That's where the money comes in. That's where the pushing comes in. That's where, I need these gifts. I need this. Are we forcing it instead of reconsidering what God has for our lives? Mike, you want to pop in?
Yeah, real quick. What about the jocks in high school and college who make it to the next level, but then can't handle the next level?
Fizz out.
That's been a cautionary tale in every occupation, industry, and including ministry.
Because all it takes is one bad sermon.
All it takes is one scandal.
Oh, one scandal.
Or blowing a gig.
Yep.
Or ticking off the wrong promoter or preacher, or not coming through the way you thought, you should. And hey, in a world that will still listen to R. Kelly music, I'm sure there's somebody that'll always hire you back or take you on.
Let's just be honest. A lot of these guys are only good because, truth be told, they're using somebody else's stuff. And when you get to that next level, you can't use somebody else's stuff because somebody else already know that stuff.
They know what you're doing. And a lot of people, let's just be honest.
So now you got to preach your own stuff.
I had a situation.
And your own stuff ain't good.
Oh, correct. Your own stuff ain't good. And even if it's like musical or whatever, sometimes people strive for this certain type of atmosphere, production, presentation, because without it,
yeah.
What if I put you on a bare stage? What if I put you in an acoustic? What if I just gave you a piano and said lead worship? What if I just gave you a podium and said teach or preach? Thank you. SermonCentral.com. Every preacher knows SermonCentral.com. And if you don't, you lying. You are a liar and the truth is not in you. Every preacher knows SermonCentral.com. Every preacher tries to Google pastors on the other side of the country that I'm just saying. But Mike is absolutely right. First of all, the number of people who actually make it to these next levels that we all think, everybody prophesied over all of us. We all going to have worldwide ministries. We're all going to minister to the nations. We're all going to write the song of the Lord. We're all going to change the world. Out of that, a minute percentage, 0.0% is going to make it. And then the people that make it, how long does somebody stay in the NFL these days? How long does somebody stay in the NBA these days? The average years, not the LeBron.
Years.
And everybody thinks they're going to be the next LeBron. Everybody thinks they're the next Ty Tribbett. Everybody thinks they're the next TD Jakes. You might be hot for a minute. There's plenty of cats I was following like, man, this dude, then I just forgot they existed. Same thing with music and all. And there's a small percentage. So it's not that we don't want you to get on. It's just that we know the dangers of this life. We know what comes along with this life. Some of us have lived in those spaces. Maybe we made choices. And by the way, sometimes you think people are where they are because they're weaker. Some people just know their place and what they're called to.
That's it.
And didn't chase something that wasn't for them.
That's it. It's that you're either the up and coming or you're the senior statesman. But or you're the falling star. That section in between, is where you either rise or die.
You either find your spot,
yes,
and be there. And so, I love that analogy, Mike, of the people who do make it. And I've seen guys get the call up to the big church,
right?
Preaching, musician wise, music director, all that stuff, singing. And they realize that the structure, the standards, the excellence, and by the way, a lot of these mentalities, just like small towns like ours, it's easy to be the star in your hometown when you've been bigger than everybody your whole life.
Right.
It's easy. The church, every city has its couple preachers, couple musicians, couple people who are always on the top. Go to a place where everybody can do what you can do.
Right.
and see where your niche really is. See, I mean, I go there and I'm like, okay, I feel where I'm at. As I say all the time, self-esteem is great. Self-awareness is better.
Right.
Knowing where you stack up, not lowering yourself, but don't start talking out of yourself that the people who really do know are like, yeah, you're good and you got it, but so does this dude, so does this guy.
Right.
Some of you are getting up here killing them. I see you and you're a man, you're a man. And then I'll see a TikTok of a 7-year-old. Of a 7-year-old preaching a house down or leading better than a Tamala man or somebody. So it's like, don't get high on yourself. Don't get high on yourself. Everybody who thinks they're good, there's always somebody better.
Absolutely.
And I believe like, and to wrap this up, I want to hear back from you if you got any comments, questions, thoughts. I believe that one of the answers is valuing people, and the church has to reverse itself. I don't expect a person who's been caught up in that mentality because that's the culture that they've been raised in, that you're the most important because you have talent. You're the most important because you bring the people in. You're the most important because you sing the best, you preach the best. I believe that people have to start valuing people as people. And I went through that as a young minister, where you get full of yourself because your only interactions were accolades. Who am I to you?
Right.
When I'm not preaching? Do you love me when I'm not performing? And I think that the church has to value people for who they are.
You know, and I totally agree with you. I remember going when I went to Harrison's church, and, you know, I came in there thinking, you know what I'm saying? I'm the man, you know, and he made me wait with everybody else, which means not only did he value me, but he valued everybody else.
Right.
That had already been there.
Right.
I'm not just going to put him up front because he's already been pastoring, because he's already been a preacher. And maybe he's even a little bit more advanced than a lot of these people I got, but I'm going to make him wait just as much as everybody else.
Right.
And it showed how much he respected everybody else as well as myself. And I think a lot of times we have to do that.
Absolutely. Type your questions, type your comments. And even if you are that good, you are good, you got it going on. There's no doubt about it, but you're still a human. You're still a person. And let's pull it back to the church. Just like as Coach Arnold would say, and I have great respect for him. He says, I tell them all the time, you are student athletes.
Right.
You're not an athlete who just happens to have to, you know, wait to school. And I think the church has to reaffirm that. And it's tough, you know, Dooley, he's probably gone, but he said it earlier. He said, you know, the churches where there is accountability, where pastors called out, they're empty. Now, I do think that there are healthy environments and there should be more of them. Where the pastor that doesn't, you know, I mean, we're ranting and raving because this is religiously incorrect, but I'm not going to scream at a person who's not doing what they ought to do or tell you ain't nothing, by the way, and don't you. But I am going to say, hey, consider the balance of your life.
Right.
Consider a life plan. I'm concerned about where you're going to end up, not just in the gift or the talent you have to offer. I'm concerned about where you live in life.
Right.
I'm concerned about, and I really see this a lot with young men. And I use the word bums, and it sounds harsh. But I'm concerned about young men in church who are greatly talented, but their lives as a whole are severely deficient. And you know, I know that the preacher wants you to be at all the revivals and the services, and you're shedding and you're singing and you're going here. But I know also it's like to run around on a shoestring budget, begging for bread, you know, being willing to be what they call a starving artist.
Right.
But at a certain point, you're actually starving your future.
Absolutely. And I think I was blessed, and I don't want to say it like that, but because I had a child, I couldn't do it. Right. I couldn't just say, no, I'm not, I'm going to the revival. I'm going to this conference. No, I got to go to work. I got to go to work.
Right.
I can't make it to this revival.
Man, I know people ain't taking care of their kids in the church so that they can go to church.
Exactly. Yes.
I know people that's not paying their bills and get behind on credit cards so that they can be at the latest concert, so that they can go and blaze and do this and do that. And it's like, and then you got the nerve to say, I'm going through a trial.
Right.
I'm ministering through my pain. Jumping up and down, talking about the devil's attacking me. No, you keep calling off. You keep calling off to go to a revival with 9 people.
That ain't paying. You got too many points.
Yeah, you were called off from a job that pays you $1,000 a week so that you can take a $50 gig. Can we be clear about this?
That's foolishness.
We got people that's taking off to do revivals that might give you $100 a night, and you're walking away from a job that was paying you $30 an hour. You know what I mean? And just to say, and I'm saying you have to have a balance to this. And thank you, Pastor Tatum. We have to return to being faithful to the assignment and placing people that God calls us to. God calls us to prosper, people over profit. I'll be honest, I'm a witness to that. And can I say something else? A pastor said this the other night, and we'll go. Know what works for you, not what works for somebody else. Mm-hmm. Be wise enough to look around and say, I know that that's the methodology I'm being pushed. Like, I know the methodology. The methodology is I should have told my church to buy me a $40,000 digital screen to go behind me. And I should have done this. And I should have hired a person I pay $400 a week just to lead, sing a few songs. I know that's the methodology. But second is thriving, doing what it's supposed to be doing, the way it's supposed to be doing, and reaching, no disrespect, no arrogance, but reaching in many ways far more people than people who put on a better show than us.
Absolutely.
And I'm not knocking that. Do what you feel is right. But if you think you're reaching the masses doing that, Dad would always say, check the book.
Right.
Check the numbers. For real. You know, and so I feel like what Pastor Tatum was talking about prospering, it's not just financially prospering, but your ministry will prosper as you understand your niche and where you're called to. And then stop pretending like you're entitled to more of a prospering than what you're doing is actually going to get you. Mm-hmm. Mm. People shouldn't come because you think they ought to come.
Right. What have you done again?
Because you think you're better.
That's it.
Who are you to say that? You can say your food's delicious all you want. Nobody wants to come eat it. You
come on, sir.
It's the most bomb food ever. Apparently, nobody agrees with you. Not to the level you
think it is.
You believe. And I mean, we've had guys do that, man. I mean, nothing's worse than watching a guy, and I'm talking in the sports language, who had been boosted up and then wants to know why they're barely being recruited by a D4 school. You know, and they've been told they're the best thing since sliced bread, and they thought O State was coming for them. Mm-hmm. And they end up playing for Sisters of the Poor or whoever, you know what I mean? They end up playing for Eastern Gateway Community College football team. I mean, but everybody told you that Penn State and Michigan were coming after you.
You know, I said it earlier in the show when I was talking to Fernando last night. You know, I was saying, you know, I can teach my son how to shoot. I know how to shoot, but I've never played basketball in school. So I don't know how to teach him how to dribble. And that's one of the fundamentals. And I said, I need him to learn how to dribble. He said, don't worry about the dribbling. The dribbling will come. What kind of attitude does he have?
You can't teach him how to dribble because you're too close to the ground. Hey, I can't lift a pound, so what are these arms gonna do? What are these arms gonna do? All right, we love y'all. We love y'all. Hey, that's it. People over profit. I love it, man. Pastor Jeff, you know, I want to see better for the church, and I don't think that we're always paying attention to where the church is going because we can be stuck on ourselves. And I really want to see better. And just like we've watched schools and people go down because they put focus in the wrong place, I don't want to see the church go that way.
Or people.
Or the
jocks.
You know, I would hate to walk around, run into a young, talented person 30 years from now and be like, they could have been something or could have been better off in life if it hadn't been for this. But such is life. So, Pastor, I almost called you Pastor Mike. Pastor Mike, you want to get a benediction?
No, I'm good, man. Hey, Fernando, call me, man. I got
this cat
idea.
Is actually doing. This is the kind of stuff that grandmas do on Facebook.
Fernando Phillips, call me.
This cat is doing the kind of stuff that great aunties do on Facebook when you posting up something completely unrelated, and they be like, "This your Aunt Bertha. I've been trying to call you." All right, y'all. Leave your comments, like, share. We love to hear from you. We don't mind angry faces because it ups our algorithm. So, hey, we want you to disagree. Type hashtag Trump in there. If you're looking,
that's why the angry faces ain't there or there.
Yeah. Hey, we like it. Hey, put some angry hashtags in there. Do hashtag. What's popular hashtags? Hashtag Nicki Minaj, Meg the Stallion. You know, all that stuff. But hey, make sure you check us out every Sunday night. Sunday night service, 8 p.m. Same bat time. Same bat channel. and follow us Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Until next time, Sunday night service. We out.